Your Humanities Half Hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council, navigating the human experience together.
Hafaday, Zantero. Welcome to Your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry, and our guest today is Guam historian and Chamorro storyteller Malia Toni Ramirez. Malia, welcome back to the Marianas Saipan.
Oh, this is my 5th trip to the Sirena in less than a year, but I was over in Tinian. But it's always a blessing, and I always enjoy, being in the Sirena. In this case, Tinian and Saipan both. So, Hafaday, para todos samjud and Tirao, also in the Refalowich language.
Well, you were recently a part of the launch of a film here in the Marianas related to Chamorro customs. And tell us more about this film, Promesa.
Promesa.
Yeah.
The promesa, and one word, or in a few words, is the traditional novena that has been practiced among our people, both Chamorro and Refalowich. I know that because the novenas here are also set by the Refalowich people. Although they say it in their language, of course, us Chamorros we say it in our own language. And the promesa it's a derivative of the Spanish word promise. And for those who are listening, so what does this mean, promise? From my earliest understanding, the promesa is a contract, an agreement, basically. And let me cite an example. My mother began her promesa at the age of 13. Josefina, her maiden name, Sablan de Guerrero. Both her mother and father died at the age of 13 with 5 children, and she was the eldest. And so she was telling me that in 1933, she would just always call like this to me, Malia, I never had a childhood. And I said, why, Mom? Because I became responsible for my siblings, at least 2 of them. And at the age of 13, her grandfather, Manuel Rosario Sablan, Similiente, they also have that Sablan lineage here in the Sirena. She converted that dao that her grandfather gave her as the Niño. It was a dao. And she said, you are going to be my Niño. Niño.
Baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus, right. And she said, I will promise you that I would say your novena each year, December, if you can help me with my life. I am too young to accept this responsibility. And so she did. 1933 till today, we are still saying this promesa. It's a contract. And so you cannot just, an agreement, delete that promise my mom did over 90 years ago of this novena Niño. And it has brought us so many blessings as a Chamorro family. She passed away. We continued on with the tradition, and we are now teaching our younger generation to be a part of this promesa. Again, it's a contract or an agreement with either the Christ child, the Blessed Virgin Mary, or any saint, San Antonio, San Francisco, Santa Remedios, and all that, between you and that particular saint. And it goes from one generation to the other generation to the other generation. Now the novena, it's tied into the novena. So what is the novena? Novena comes from the word novem, like November, which is 9 days. It's a 9-day prayer service. There's only one exception of one novena that's set in Chamorro only in 3 days. That's the Niño Perdido and another novena. But again, it's that agreement, that contract that helped me with my life, and I assure you that I would commit my devotion to you. And that is why it's always been practiced by our people, both Chamorros and Refalos, the promesa through the novena. And I'm a Tetsa, I'm 73, and I began saying the novena at age 9, simply because my mother's eyes were failing her. And so she gave me the novena book, and I'm looking at this. This is, I'm born after the war, I'm 73. And I hear the novena every year because we say it every year. But to read it in Chamorro was quite difficult because we didn't learn Chamorro in school in either writing or reading. So I did struggle, but I've been saying now the novena before my mom passed away, and even up to today, even last year, and I'll be saying again this year, because now my sister, one of them, there's 5 of them, has inherited the responsibility to carry through with the promesa. And one part, of course, of the promesa is the religious and the novena, but it also brings families together. And especially today, when we are all so tied in with so many other activities, other concerns, this is the only time my family today can gather for 9 consecutive days during Christmas time, so timely, to see each other, to know what's going on with each other, and to discuss the promesa. So when I say the novena Niño, it's not just simply saying the novena. I'm kind of a tetra that has extended over the traditional way of saying it. Each night there's a different story about his birth, about the 3 kings, about his presentation of the temple. And I would explain this to my family, why these accounts were given within the 9 days. Because it really simply, what do you call that, reflects our own life. The very first novena, I Permet na Ani, or Permet na Puengi, is about, imagine this, right? And it's kind of difficult to understand. Here is Christ Jesus. And it's in the novena, you read it out. Ilek niya, aadzik I pinebli kontra I ginasga. He chose poverty over richness to come into this world. He was homeless. But you see, it doesn't gel in many people's mind that Jesus Christ was homeless. Remember,
yes.
They were looking for a place for him to be born, in a manger, among animals. So that, to me, when I meditated that, and I asked my family to meditate along with me, all right, to see this sequence of his own life and how it reflects to us, and how our promesas, whatever we ask of the Niño, can assist us in that particular request. It could be anything. It could be health. It could be, your child that needs help. Or it could be even marital, whatever. But it will help you. Really, I'm telling you, the promesa is a very strong traditional Chamorro and Refalo, practice in the Marianas. And the documentary, if you see the documentary, I believe it's about 43 minutes, there are 5 Tetsas that were interviewed to talk about the novena I talked about the promesa, I think, among the four of us, to try to tie in this culture of the Chamorro. But you know, when you look at it too, is the promesa directly just from Christianity? Or have our ancestors also had their own form of promesa? Because when I look at Catholicism here in the Marianas, many of the practices that we do have some sort of vestiges from the traditional culture. I've done that research, and it's really amazing. So the promesa documentary documents well, because there are different Tetsas with different perspectives, and how they became a Tetsa, and why they particularly say a particular novena. And it is really very, very well explained. And again, through the familiar system, it brings us together. Especially today, when our families are really so fragmented now, because we're all over the world. I mean, you know, we find Chamorros and Refollow's people now, not just in the Marianas. You find them elsewhere. But then again, the technology, and one part of the promesa story was they were using the website, the Zoom, to connect, because they were coming from different parts of the country. But then again, you see that, how the culture is alive through the culture of the promesa and the novena.
Mm. What has it meant to you personally to keep this promise all these years?
Well, the first pivotal thought that comes to my mind every time I say a novena is, of course, my family. How the promesa binds us together as the Ramirez family of the Mariana Islands, and how we, as a family, through the promesa, continually bond with each other in the traditional Chamorro extended system. Because today here in the Marianas, and we have to face it, the families are becoming more and more fragmented, because we're moving out of the we're here, we're there, and all that. But this promesa will always bind us together as a people, no matter where we go. Well, look at Liberation Day, another example. Chamorros, even here in Guam, you know, they celebrate that certain day of liberation that binds the community together, especially in the mainland or wherever they're at. You know, that this is one of those pivotal historical event that happened in our islands, right? And why do they do it? Why do they celebrate this? It's because it connects them to that particular event. World War II, this year, would mark the 80th anniversary. It's a living history. When I first started coming up here to work in the American Memorial Park, I met quite a number of elders telling me about their accounts of World War II. And it was so beautiful. They all have since passed away. You know, I'm 73, so at the time that I was interviewing them, I was in my 40s, I believe, or late 30s. So they have all passed away. But there's not one day, really, especially nearing this time, that I do not think of them. I know that the CNMI came up with really certainly excellent books, like We Drank From Our Tears, where the young kids went and interviewed their elders, Isainas, to get the accounts. And that's a very beautiful project that was done here. And but then again, 80 years ago, I am now a immediate post-war generation, but my information is not from the actual account that experienced World War II. The people I talk to here, the elder Isainas, Yes, they lived through World War II. They told me about World War II, just like in Guam. And could I read that from a book? No. Because each Chamorro sign that were followers had their own account about what had happened to them. They were all a book. Each of them, okay, it's like a book, like a chapter. That this is what happened to me. This is my recollection of what had happened here in the Marianas. And I have to mention their names. Dan Rosam Blanco, Camacho, then Madeleine Cogre Pangilinan, and Tanakina. She's my immediate relative because she's a Sablan. Pangilinan. And then Ben Barras. I don't know if you remember these names. Then Franciscan Celis. They all have since passed away.
How does it feel? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How does it feel having collected all these stories through the years? Do you feel a sense of responsibility? Being who you are, well known as a storyteller, it's a lot. It's a lot of human history to carry in yourself. What does that feel like?
Well, to me, I, as the recipient of the information, also have the responsibility to respect the information, because some of them are very personal. It's not something that they told me to share with, but they told me to understand what had happened, if you can understand it in that context. And that, nobody would never know, but probably me. And am I wrong to be the only one to know that? You see, the Chamorros we define our history in a different way. All right? Our history is like, to me, it's like sacred. You know, this is what had happened. For me to understand, as a patgun, as a child, of what had happened to them. But it's not for me to take that information, whatever. Some, of course, I could share, but some, and many of them, no. Because they entrusted it to me. And that's the thing about obtaining the stories from the elders. Is the first thing they would ask you is, well, who are you? Because I'm Chamorro, right?
What family are you?
And that has to go. That's the first prerequisite. Because they are not going to tell you anything if there is no established relationship.
Right.
But once they know me, not me, my mother and father, then they're more open to and I bless my mother and father. They're even known here because, you know, I have a lot of families in the Sirena mine. Tudelas, Ramirez, Sablans, and Leon Guerreros. That's my surnames. And but once you establish that, then they confide in you. Yes, I will tell you. But always remember that what I tell you is between you and I. I never use a recorder. Never.
I just find it amazing that you have all of this.
Yes.
73 years worth in your beautiful mind.
Because the minute you bring a recorder, they go like this, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
And they're not that, they feel uncomfortable. Because, you know, and I know that.
Yeah.
Because again, the account is between me and them. And then I can share this to our younger generation, that this is what happened to our elders, whatever that may be. You know, but I was just blessed, I think, that I was at the right place at the right time, because when I came up here in to do the American Memorial Museum, you know, I knew the elders, but I just didn't know, like, you know, how to approach them and the information that I needed. But I never once really in the conversation did I direct them to the questions. No, they told me.
So it was more like a conversation, a chat. Like
no, it's a how should I say
less
this?
of an interview And more of a conversation, maybe?
Well, it's the Chamorro way. See, because you're thinking in the academic world of the Western world, and that's the first thing I had to do was to de-Westernize my
deinstitutionalize.
right, because I would have never understood it in the very beginning, So I couldn't. So that's what had happened, okay, in the accounts, and it's not that I talked to every single, but they would call me up, I have something to tell you, or they would say, but they trusted me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm so blessed that they trusted me, and never once have I taken any of the information or of what they told me to either, what do you call that? It's just between me and them, and I'm pretty sure they shared this information with hopefully with their own children. And that's why these projects like We Drank from Our Tears. I just saw one of the documentaries on Guam.
Our tears,
yeah, during the Miss Chamorro, and it was a film. What happened to this one particular family during World War II, because quite a number of Chamorros and fellows also died in the Sirena during World War II. People don't realize that. You have it over there at the American Memorial Park on the memorial wall, and I go there and I think of these families and what had happened to them. But like I said, the Chamorro concept of history is sacred, just like family histories. It's not just something that, when they would tell me, this is this family, but when it comes into cases where by the legitimate father is not, so those type of information they told me because they trusted me, but it's not for me to or what had happened to one particular person as to the other during these events. But that's our history, and we're still living. We're still here today. Us, your generation, my generation, and we still forge on with our own history, and that's beautiful. I really think about the way we have 4,000 years we've been around. We're the first to be reached. We're the first to be colonized. Name it, we were the first. And we're still here. 2024, after Magellan to San Vitores, and we're still here. We maintain the islands because, people moved into the north after the depopulation and all that, but they moved up here, they settled here, and that's to protect these islands. There's a whole history behind that. It just wasn't, a history of, well, let's settle CNMI on both sides of the Revolution and the Chamorros. But we call it the Marianas. Of course, it's two different governments, but it's still the Mariana Islands. We can't separate that fact. No matter what we do, it can't be, because we are, one archipelago, one story, and all of that. And to me, it's been for me, it has been very rewarding. I never thought I was going to be in this position, but I think it enhanced my life. It enhanced my knowledge of appreciating our islands and our people, and they have given me that strength to understand. I mean, how many people or how many cultures have gone to a major war like we did here in the Mariana Islands? Let's face it, we did. And after the war, when I talked to the elders here, like in Guam, and I said, "Oh, Mom and Pop, where did you live in Agana?" And they would go, "Oh, over there." And I said, "We're over there." And I said, "Over there, any?" And I said, "There's nothing there. It was all destroyed by World War II. You talk to the elders here, and you talk about Garapan, and you say, "Oh, where did you grow?" I said, "Oh, over there, and I said, we're over there. But but it's all in their memory,
Yeah.
you know. But they would tell me, because what had happened after the war, what they built, unfortunately,
Was destroyed.
It's like destroying a history book, you know, that, and that's why I'm so pleased that now you have the Garapan Heritage Walk brochure. That's a very excellent brochure. We have one for Guam too.
We can see the historic sites
to
around
see
Garapan.
to
That's
see
a
the
form of
history of our own
storytelling
people.
also.
Right, yeah. So, you know, and then going back to storytelling, so that's where I learned it from my grandparents. One of the, there are so many, of course, stories in Guam from, the giant fish. But then again, when I was listening to them, I said, wait a minute, what happened here? They're telling me this, but yet I'm reading this in the English. It's because they were looking at it from a Chamorro perspective. You know, here's the story of the giant fish that tried to split the island of Guam in two. But is it really just about the giant fish? Or is it talking about the depth of the ocean of the Mariana Trench, that a giant fish was living there? You know, these type of things that they knew that the deepest ocean was around our waters. We have now the two marine national marine monuments. From what I heard, now we have past the deepest ocean boundary. I don't know. I was just going to go and check that here. But stories like that, stories about how they were coming up here during the Spanish period to resettle the islands, and then in combination with the followers people that were also came here in the Marianas history that blended together, you know, and Hapade Tirao, or Tiro, Tirao. See?
Tiro?
Yeah. And, because I talked to some of the Carolinian elders too. Not to the extent that I talked to the Chamorro signers, but I did talk to them, and there's just that, again, that rapport, and my mother and father knew quite a lot because they came to Guam right after the war to work in rebuilding Guam. I don't know if you know that. The American forces brought quite a number of young men from the Sirena to work in Guam to rebuild Guam after the war, and also a part of the war efforts of what to do at the end of the war with Japan, shortly after that time frame. But storytelling, some of the unique one, of course, everybody, I was just talking to one today, a person from here, and June Pond this morning, and he said, well, Sirena is one story that is also known here about the maiden who became half fish and half human. But look at that. All these years, I was looking at the point of view of a Western writer writing about the account. So what I did was I said, is this really the way it happened? No, not at all. Not the way the scientists were telling me in Guam. That in the account, that in the Sirena, you better be a good child, or else you're going to become half-fish if you're cursed. Incorrect. The Sirena story is about the sinus. They better be careful of what comes out in their mouth against their child, because it brings that impediment of psychological development. That's what the Sirena story is all about. But in this case, it was like human transformation, not psychological. But basically, it's just telling parents, you have a responsibility to your children. Speak well and address your children well.
Thank you, Malia.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. And hopefully then to the people of to the people of the Marianas. Adios.
Our guest today has been Malia Toni Ramirez. She's a Guam historian and Chamorro storyteller, and you can see why she's well known for what she does. This has been your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
Your Humanities Half Hour has been made possible in part by a major grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Democracy demands wisdom. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities. For more information or to share your thoughts, contact the Northern Marianas Humanities Council at nmhcouncil.org or on social media at 670 Humanities. That's 670 Humanities.